Alright, time for another draftphysics.com, debatephysics.com, also video presentation. So we're still playing with Reddit. The room still exists, and so in complete duplicity, yeah. So there's absolutely nothing different about the one that's still up and the ones they took down. Elementally nothing different. I mean, one of the other rooms that was taken down was just like this one. It was another person putting up the room and commenting, so I didn't comment because I was already banned. So we can't blame my comment specifically for what makes the difference. And the appeal has been filed. Now a week, and so far no response. But anyway, it's just this horrible censorship for really no good reason off all platforms where you can discuss physics. So any platform where you're supposed to be discussing physics, you can't talk about their physics. Now you can laugh at flat earthers, you can do this and that, but you can't talk about their physics being unevidenced mush, silly religion. Can't do that. In fact, you just can't do it because they'll ban you. All right, and all right, so this is the newest subject, and it's a little, putting everything into words, concepts in physics is a little difficult. So it's an obvious picture anyway. You can see there's a distance, you're going to cross a stream. The idea is that the stream is a constant force like wind or like rain or like spray paint or like a lot of other things, including gravity. And that you're going to collect the force based on how long you're in the stream. And distance, although it matters, it's not going to tell the tale. What's going to really tell the tale about how much force you collect is how long you're allowed to interact with the force. It is your interaction with the force that allows you to collect energy from the force, and you need time to collect the energy. Just like it does actually take time for something to weigh its weight on a scale. All right, so I guess I'll read this since it's here, and I'm here. All right, anyway. Energy is, here's the title. Physics has made a mess of the concept of potential energy. So it's just this idea that what we really should understand is that there's motion in a straight line, and it's easy to say, okay, I can jump on the bus and I can go in a straight line and get somewhere. And then understanding that there's energy where the energy of the bus could just jerk around, like the transmission could be broken. It just goes up and down and backward. And I don't get anywhere, so from my perspective, the bus, even though it's doing the same amount of work, it's burning the same amount of gas, it's not going anywhere. So it's not useful, but it's still energy. And then the idea that the energy that we're really talking about is that, in terms of potential, is some circumstance where you have a potential to expand something, to produce a push into the universe because you've created a contraction, a pressure, or you've trapped stuff, in a circle, or you've trapped it in a box and it can't get out of the box. So that would be like a balloon. A simple mechanism. You're just going to push a bunch of extra air, higher density into an area, and it's going to have a higher pressure, and it's going to be pushing, trying to get out of the balloon. So it's going to be expanding the balloon because there's more pressure inside the balloon. So that's real storage. And it really shouldn't be confused with, well, I have my boat on the side of the river, but I'm not going anywhere. My boat doesn't have any potential. It's not going to do anything until I put it in the river. And the simple argument is all energy is motion. And they want to say it isn't. So that's the first comment here, okay, by a physicist who's claiming energy isn't motion, that there's some other kind of energy that isn't motion. Now, I'd argue that the energy in chemistry is all about electrons and how compressed they are. So you can have one atom where the electrons are very close to each other and hostile, more hostile, aggravated, and then you can have a lazier atom where the electrons are a little more relaxed and it's not quite the same pressure. And those are the kind of chemical exchanges that'll be made based on also the number of these electrons, right? So the more electrons you have, the more likely they are to be bothering each other, and the fewer you have, the less likely they are to be bothering each other. So again, it's a pressure argument. We know there's pressure between the electrons. So that's the elemental energy. And so nothing, if you say an atom has E equals mc squared or something, well, the energy it has is the pressure between the electrons and the electrons and the protons and the protons. That's the pressure. That's why they called the imaginary strong force the strong force, is because it takes a lot of force to push two protons into each other. But the trick is, if you just stick an electron between the two protons, you don't have to apply any force. They'll automatically get very close. So anyway, they just have a very wrong and irrational concept of energy, and they can't prove any of it. They can't show you any evidence of any of it. And yet they'll just keep proclaiming it to be the truth. All right, energy is movement. Movement either travels like a stream of water or a stream of photons in a laser, or it is trapped and stored like in a circular orbit or in the back and forth of a sealed elastic vessel. So like the balloon or some kind of pressurized air tank, you can have a whole bunch of stuff that is moving around. The storage, the energy isn't not moving. It's lots of movement in there. Right? If you had a boat on the side of a river, it wouldn't make any literal sense to say the boat had the potential energy to go down the river. The boat doesn't have any energy. Hasn't stored anything, has no capacity. The river has everything, and for the boat to move, it has to take energy from the river. It literally has to consume some of its energy for it to move. The bowling pins can't be knocked down unless the ball hits them, and likewise the boat can't move unless the river hits the boat and gives it part of its momentum. Clearly the river has all the energy, and if you put a boat in it and allow it to freely collect the energy, then it can be said to have momentum or energy. Physics says something placed in an altitude from a gravitational body has potential energy. This is misleading because the object has no stored energy, and like the boat tied to a dock, it's just transforming the current of the stream into whatever it's tied to or supported by. Yes. So obviously, if I'm holding something, I'm holding it up. I'm doing the work to maintain its condition. It doesn't have any energy. I am applying energy to keep it from moving. So gravity is an active river. Okay. The fact is, it's a real force that you can allow things to float down, and they fall. As they fall, they absorb the velocity of the stream and move faster and faster. Unlike a river of water, gravity is a river still of stuff moving the speed of light. So in free fall, you will keep going faster and faster until you almost reach the speed of the water. So it gets harder and harder to add energy to you, though. The faster you're going, you have to get hit by more and more force. So it's impossible for you to go to the speed of the pushers, because your mass is always real and has to be spread over all that pushing force. Anyway, another way of testing what energy you can collect from the river is to consider crossing a river of gravity. Just like a regular river, the slower you go across, the more time the current has to push you downstream. So it's just obvious that, gravity pushes you into the ground. If you move across the ground, the faster you move, the less per inch pressure the ground will feel, because it takes time for gravity to push you down. The obvious inverse, the faster you get across, the less energy the river you will collect, and the less distance you will travel downstream. Rivers give energy in units of time, and so in fact does gravity. So it's just making the argument. It's obviously a time-dependent force. It works like all the time-dependent forces. It's ridiculous to say like photons aren't time-dependent, that somehow you can sit outside and it matters what distance you move will decide how suntanned you get, when obviously the only thing that will decide how suntanned you get is how long you're in the sun. All right, so in that context, physicist Andy makes a comment that, again, is just vacuous. I mean, this is a physicist, proclaimed, self-proclaimed, a double physicist. He actually has 2 physics degrees. Okay, and this is the best he can do as a counter-argument, right? This is a physicist. So we have this butthole, and we have Valerie Rousseau, double butthole, and the best they can do is insult and, worse, terrorize. Blah. Using their little evil voices. Rousseau even brought up the Second Amendment in the conversation. I mean, he actually brought up I have a Second Amendment right to shoot you. I mean, implying that. I mean, what the fuck? Anyway, it's just amazing. In a physics argument, for somebody to bring up the Second Amendment. What? All right, anyway. The reason why you're useless, so again, he's hiding, okay, so he's pretending to be all this stuff. You can't really tell because he's hiding all his data. You can't see what he really posts anywhere, and certainly you can't look up his papers or his reputation in any way. So it's all just fucking talk. Anyway, is because nothing demonstrable in reality concludes anything you say is correct. So what? This isn't even a proper sentence. All right. The reason why you're useless is because nothing demonstrable in reality concludes anything you say is correct. Reality can't conclude. We make conclusions. We draw conclusions. And clearly the whole argument here is so obvious that you have no evidence of this distance dependence, and there's lots of reasonable arguments to be made that how is it different than wind? How is it different than paint spray? Explain to me how gravity is different than wind and a river and paint spray, besides just the speed of the force. Explain to me how it's any different, because all those things are inverse square functions also. And that's about all we know about gravity, is that it's inverse square and it's moving the speed of light. So you explain to me how your theory is just automatically superior somehow, when in fact it doesn't work in all circumstances. So in all circumstances, if I evaluate how long the object was in the influence of gravity, I'll get a right answer. There won't be any place where I'll get a wrong answer if I go look at it as mgt. But if I use mgh, I will get into huge trouble as soon as the object has any pre-existing motion. MGH only works in one ludicrous circumstance where I take something out of non-existence and I place it into existence in a location. There's no other way to do MGH and then to an artificial way, because nothing can actually get into a gravitational field without moving. All right, anyway. The Department of Energy, the DOE, has a great page for kids on why energy isn't just motion, and it says absolutely. So we'll go to that just because it's funny. Well, I don't know if there is actually a page, but he could link to this great, brilliant fact that he's going to prove with some kind of proof. But there won't be any proof that there's any energy that isn't fundamentally built out of pressure or motion. I mean, the whole argument is that if you have pressure, it has to be something's creating the pressure, and the thing creating the pressure has to be motion. All right, anyway, once you start to understand that, then you can learn about what the big boys use to measure energy. And then he says, ha ha ha. So he thinks this is an adult response from the big boys who know physics, that somehow he has explained why, hey, it's just a fact. The faster I go across the point A to point B is a distance. And the fact is, the distance is completely irrelevant. The only thing that's going to matter is how fast did I get from point A to point B. That's going to decide how far downstream I am. So how did he debunk that argument? Oh, that's right. He didn't do it at all. That's just absolute shitty babble. That's all he could. That's all he could provide, right? Shitty little babble. All right, so that's the first shitty little babble comment that won't deal with the subject at all. All right. Yeah, so I might as well chime in. Yeah, right. We're in between subjects, so to speak. So Final Fantasy, is it? Yeah. So thanks for the audio check. That's always helpful. And, Draft Science has over 3K subscribers. Yes, who are, what? We're talking about only 5 people. I mean, you could just go by how many thumbs up a video gets, right? 7? 7 people see some merit in having these conversations about this elemental physics. So they can't even in any way relate to the fact that these are conversations that physics should have. They should be challenged, and they should be able to explain these duality problems. I mean, to have an energy duality is disgusting, frankly. I mean, the real definition, in the dictionary kind of definition of momentum and kinetic energy is the same. It's supposed to be a description of motion. What does motion mean? Both of them say it means this. And then you can get into scalar and whatever the fuck scalar would be. What the hell could that possibly mean? A magnitude in no direction. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. How does a magnitude in no direction make something move? Wait a minute. Yeah, it can't happen. So, I mean, but yes, it's just absolutely dismal that so many people can't even enjoy or be interested in watching or paying attention to these kinds of elemental arguments. I mean, really, should we say when you shoot electrons at a crystal, should we call that a double slit experiment? I mean, there's no slits. There's certainly not 2 slits. Why is that a double slit experiment? I mean, really, Stern Gerlach, you're shooting silver atoms, okay, that are magnetic and can turn in a magnetic field. And you're going to claim that you're measuring the magnetic moment of an electron? And the very idea that this electron has a magnetic moment doesn't make much sense because, frankly, electrons are just negative charges. That's all they do. They don't have some other job. They don't have like a side job. They don't even have a hobby. They just do one thing. They make negative charge. They don't do anything else. They're not dipoles. They're not magnets. I mean, you don't even have to have that kind of conversation. You're just saying, and yes, the fact that there's so few people who think any of this should be tied up a little better. Like science should look very different from religion. I mean, it shouldn't look anything like religion. It shouldn't have any holy ghosts in it. It shouldn't have any hobgoblins. Shouldn't have demons. Shouldn't have any of this made-up, silly entanglement, antimatter, poofy crap in it. And it just, I can't really describe the depth of my disappointment. As a pessimist to start with, that people are this bad. I mean, compared to what I was imagining people being, this is so much worse that, this is like 99%, literally 99% of human beings are just lying, conniving, scummy pieces of fucking absolute shit. And that surprises me. I mean, as a kid, I had a couple of friends, I wonder what they are now. Are they lying sacks of shit like this now, too? Did they all turn into these fucking monsters that you couldn't have a sincere or real conversation with ever because they're just lying scum defending some sort of poofy religion? Ugh, gross. Anyway, so I'll finish the comment. Yet not even 10% of those subs can attend a live stream and make some sort of intelligent contribution. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that there's just a void of any logical interaction, any kind of reasoning taking place. They just can't. The people who are saying, okay, great, I'd rather have a conversation with people who disagree with me, but disagree with me in some kind of honest way. I mean, I could show my own comment section. Maybe I'll do it later. And some asshole is trying to say that interferometer experiments with radio waves from distant stars where they measure the phase difference is the same thing as the Eddington experiment. And you're like, what the fuck? I mean, there's nothing. They won't stop anywhere in terms of this insane nonsense that there's absolutely, again, it's like calling the double slit experiment. It's the same kind of thing. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? The experiment has nothing to do with what you learn from the Eddington experiment. The Eddington experiment is testing image manipulation. It's a much more advanced, okay, and narrow experiment in terms of what the possible causes of the effect can be. There can only be the one cause of gravity bending because you've eliminated scatter as a possibility. That's a huge difference between Eddington and any other of these experiments, is that Eddington is an image experiment. It's just, and these are physicists, and they don't even understand that argument. They don't understand the difference between bending a whole image and, shooting something through electrons and protons and ending up scattering just the photons. No image data because they're all scattered. And so you're just collecting some photons on the other side. And obviously after you scatter them, you'll collect them everywhere. So from every location you would say, it was bent. Because from every location you'll be able to receive the data in the wrong phase. You couldn't go somewhere where you wouldn't get the same answer. It was bent. And it's not really bent because every single location is going to see scatter. I mean, I can't believe they can't even understand that concept. Anyway, I can't believe people, like I said, how can they think gravity's not time dependent? How can they think it's not 9.8 meters per second of added velocity every 1 second? Not seconds squared. It's every 1 second. How can you think anything else is true? It's just amazing. I mean, like I said, I can't incorporate it into my, conscious matrix to be able to understand the depth of your dishonesty, because you can't be this stupid. You cannot possibly have gotten a physics degree and not understood the difference between these concepts. It's not possible. So you don't care. That's the point. You want the lie to be true, and that's all that matters. That we must establish the lie. So anyway, enough of a distraction. Back to our regularly scheduled rant. It will become a rant. Yeah, I'll get angry soon. For good goddamn reason, frankly. So this, I did type in why energy isn't motion. And so this is what you get from AI. Energy is not just motion because it includes potential energy. So here we go. Right? We know, the word potential energy is the thing being abused. So we know there's such a thing as stored energy. So that's obvious one, right? The stretched rubber band, it's obvious. Right? And there's no relativity involved here, right? You can't be confused by relativity. You do know the rubber band is actually stretched, right? There's no confusion that I just stretched the universe. Right? We know the rubber band has this is energy in the rubber band. There's no doubt about it. There's no equivalency principle. I can't twist everything in the universe upside down and say this rubber band isn't expanded because, yeah, it is expanded and it does have extra capacity to return to its previous condition. It has stored a pressure and it will release that pressure if allowed. That is a fact. So that's real storage. That's real potential, okay, to create a motion. All right. So stored energy based on position or structure. Right, so that's the silly part. It's the position. You aren't stretching a rubber band when you lift something in space. There's no rubber band you stretched, okay? So when something's up here in space, you didn't stretch a rubber band, okay? You put something in a stream of, like, photons. Photons aren't rubber bands hitting you. They're not some kind of, we stretched matter and put it over in the sun, and now the matter's coming back to hit us or something. I mean, that's a ridiculous explanation for what a photon is. All right, anyway. And rest energy. So now we're just back to Einstein making up a silly statement saying E equals mc squared, where somehow the mass is intrinsically energetic when no, it isn't. But what mass does is it takes up space. So if I had a field of little BBs and I stuck a piece of matter in it, they would displace the BBs, right? So now the BBs are in less space. That means they're going to be hotter. So I've pressurized them. So yes, the very existence of matter is energy because matter displaces energy. It pushes the force that moves electrons and protons into less space. So it pressurizes the universe. All right, that might be an okay time to change the subject again. These are all arguments that we've made over and over again, so I'm not going to hurt anybody by deciding to take care of a comment while somebody is in the room. So this is Dejik, or whatever it is, Dejik. Anyway, this is, so first off, this isn't even, there's no way to read your comment and recognize what the fuck you're saying. So, I mean, this isn't that many words, and you should be able to write it better than this. The second squared thing, okay, as far as I know, just has to do without the division. Works out not actual dimensions. So clearly they're saying it's actual dimensions. So you can say that crap, but it's just that. They're saying 4 units of distance when you fall is 4 equal units of energy. Okay, do you get that? And yet it's only 2 units of time. So the whole idea of what the force is doing has been perverted because they're not doing 9.8 meters per 1 second. They're recognizing that the velocity is only twice the velocity, but they're saying because the twice the velocity made you travel 4 units of distance, that somehow you collected 4 units of energy. So this isn't just some abstract mathematical blah blah blah. It's a real conceptual view that somehow you're collecting energy even though nothing's pushing you, in the sense that obviously when you get your first push from gravity in the first second, it gives you 9.8, which means you travel 2 units of distance for free. You don't need, gravity can shut off after the first second. You shut the gravity off, you're still going to go those 2 extra. And you're going to keep doing those 2 extra every second without gravity ever pushing you ever again. You're not going to lose your velocity that you've already gotten. So in the first second, you're already going half your speed, if you understand the point. The point is the first unit of distance, you're already going half as fast that you'll ever go. Oh, god damn. Well, you're going as fast as you will ever go if I turn the gravity off. I mean, how can you pretend this is just some sort of semantics or something? This isn't semantics. Clearly, when you say per second squared, you're not saying per 1 second. And even when you said it, per second, it's per 1 second. That's the thing that has to be understood. If, like, I would know that if somebody said per second, I would know to say, oh, that's 1 second. If somebody said meter, 7 meters, I know it's 9.8 meters. I would know it's 9.8 times 1 meter. I know it's not 9.8 times any number of meters. So I'm just saying clearly it's... Why are you rationalizing this horse shit? I mean, why are you finding excuses to take something as simple as 9.8 meters per second over 1 second? That's the fucking formula. Why are you accepting that, oh, I can just completely change that and call it 9.8 meters per second squared? And that means the same thing. That means it's in 1 second units. No, it doesn't mean it's in 1 second units. And it certainly doesn't mean anything, because who the fuck could think it's in a second squared, whatever the fuck that is? What the fuck is a second squared if it's not 1 second squared? And if it's 1 second squared, it's 1 second, isn't it? I just can't believe you just rationalize this shit. This is all they got. They have to desperately find an excuse for completely breaking physics. All right, anyway, it's definitely not the best way to represent. It's not even close to the truth, and it comes up with wrong answers. So again, do you believe that 4 pounds dropped 1 foot is the same energy as 1 pound dropped 4 feet? Do you believe that 1 pound with twice the velocity, 1 pound with twice the velocity is the same energy as 4 pounds with 1 unit of velocity? Do you believe that shit? Have you seen that shit? Anyway, it's definitely not the best way to represent it, but mathematically it's easier to work with. What does that even mean? Easier if you want the wrong fucking answer. So great. I don't believe that 1 pound dropped 4 feet is the same as 4 pounds dropped 1 foot. Well, you're defending that's what mv squared creates. So I'm just telling you, I'm just giving you a news flash. 9.8 meters per second squared ends up saying that. The math says so. Shit. Okay. I think I will resist the temptation to react further. I think your arguments about kinetic energy make sense. Well, then why are you just rationalizing some excuse for them converting it to make Leibnizian math make sense? They're trying to make Leibniz's theory Newton's theory. Do you understand that? They're trying to turn Galileo into Leibniz. And he isn't. None of them are. Shit. All right, enough. Yeah, this really is hopeless. I mean, people say it's not true. Can't even figure out how not to defend the non-truth. Oh, there's good reason to have two things and scalars, and yeah, there's good reason for all this crazy, silly shit. We need the dualities are really, that's good physics. There's a simple way to understand it. The matter pressurizes the universe. It makes the space in which the force can travel smaller, which means the pressure goes up. All right, contained within mass. So that isn't in mass. It's just that mass displaces energy. Neither of which require immediate movement. So all of it does require immediate movement. So that's the simple argument. You can't store it. You can't do anything unless you are actually storing force, pressure. That is the number of ping pong ball bounces. So if I take a ping pong ball and bounce it between two surfaces, well, this is low energy. This would be high energy because it's lots of bounces, lots of transfers. All right, so that can be understood, that you're increasing the velocity or you're increasing the density. So you're either hitting something with more little bits or you're hitting something with bits moving faster. Now, all the bits move the same speed, but I'm just saying the frequency can matter. Represents motion. Energy can be stored chemically, gravitationally, or electric. Like I said, all these things are real, though. Electricity is obviously electron pressure. The voltage is really completely synonymous with the word pressure. So you can understand that's what you have in a battery, is electron pressure. So all of this stuff can be understood as being connected clearly to something actually moving. All right, so representing the capacity for motion to change, obviously. And the only way you can create motion is with motion, because the only thing you can exchange in the universe is your motion. Your divergent vectors will collide and they will balance each other in terms of you'll make a soup out of it. Okay, you'll take this and you'll add it up into that and that. All right, you'll do some exchanging. I'll take some of what you have, you'll take some of what I have. That kind of simple argument. All right, so they closed the subject. Okay, is energy equivalent to motion? Well, it's stack exchange. They had to close that subject. Oh, we can't have this conversation. Let's see. Is energy a thing, or is it just a description of what? So who knows how stupid that one is. So that's Reddit. Yeah, well, maybe we should go there. I don't know. Should we? Well, okay. I didn't hear a decisive answer, so I decided to do it. All right, take kinetic energy. Okay, so now what are you talking? You're really saying the kinetic energy formula? Yeah. Okay. The formula they use to, by the way, measure the electron. I'm going to play that video later this week. Well, or someday. Maybe today. Maybe later. Who knows? Or someone else is doing the old experiment where they measured the mass of an electron. And it's just so funny because they just stick mv squared right in there and use that to decide how heavy an electron is. And there's no evidence this mv squared thing is true. But anyway, take kinetic energy. Okay. It's a movement of something. So we know momentum is a movement of something, but whatever. That's the mv, right? The mv comes from momentum. All right. Now, does that actually exist as a substance, for lack of a word? Yes. It really does. I mean, the whole point is, yes, it really does. And you can kind of tell from photons and stuff that there's stuff moving the speed of force, okay, and it transfers momentum. So this shouldn't even be complicated. Of course, there's stuff moving the speed of light in the universe, and it's moving all over the frickin' place, and it's moving through you right now. And depending on its frequency, will decide whether it can get through you or not. So some things are transparent. The window's transparent to infrared, but it blocks ultraviolet. There's all kinds of rules. Okay. Or is it just when objects move? Well, obviously, a big object hasn't collected any, it doesn't have what do you call it, an imbalance in a direction. So it still could have plenty of energy in it, okay, in terms of it has fish moving, okay, but they're all not moving in the same direction. They all don't have the same bias. So one atom could be jiggling this way, another atom could be jiggling this way, another atom jiggling this way. All the jiggles don't add up for a direction. So we're describing what they are doing. No, you're describing a quantity. So that was the clever thing of Newton, Descartes, and Galileo, was using this term quantity of motion. Because it actually makes sense. There's a quantity, okay, of the capacity, the MV, the momentum. All right. Same with potential energy. So that's the garbage statement. Okay, the potential is you can put a boat in a stream. Okay, you can release something in the stream of gravity. But that's what you're doing, okay? Gravity isn't a magical force. It's not a bent geodesic. It's not some silly whatever space contraction. It's a real flow of energy. Does it exist, or is it just a description of what could happen to an object? So it's obviously should be, strictly speaking, a place where you say you have stored pressure. And we know the universe goes, or you could store, say, it's an increase in heat. So we know heat goes from hot to cold, and we know that pressure goes from high to low. So those simple arguments mean that, yes, if you're going to store energy, that's what it has to look like. It has to look hot, or it has to look like high pressure. Okay, again, it's hard to articulate, but I guess what I'm saying is energy something you can really touch? Yeah, you're touching it right now. It's hitting you in the face right now. There's a whole bunch of it hitting you. Or just the behaviors of objects that we do touch. So again, it is, yes, it's a real thing. Momentum is a real thing, and it's constantly being exchanged. On the subatomic level, there are bowling balls hitting pins all day long. The universe is a, a place with lots of noise, lots of crashing is going on. So anyway. Let's see, that's a commercial. All right, so kooky plastic head. Yeah. In the end, this is more a philosophical question regarding the definition of a thing. Okay, so we know, yes, they have a perception that there is no real universe. It's not made of things. It's all some relative nonsense. Nothing has actual anything. Yes, that's really stupid. All right. Okay, I'd also add the very laws themselves. Does E equals MC squared exist? Well, that's funny that he said that. Yeah, it's a real challenge to find that one, actually. Yes, it does. Does 2 plus 2 exist? So he's saying 2 plus 2 is conceptually proven just as well as E equals MC squared. No, not really. Conceptually, no one, but if I have 2 apples and you give me 2 more apples, we have 2 plus 2 equals 4 action. So there, yeah, that's obviously silly talk. All right, I know this is late, but I'm curious. So to clarify, I read about kinetic energy and thermal energy of a car applying its brakes. Now, see, this is a big lie. No one's ever tested any of this crap. So it's all such a pile of shit. Dissipating into the atmosphere. Well, of course, brakes create heat. That's how you stop, is that you're absorbing force. You're taking the force out of the motion of the car and converting it into heat. Duh! This wording really makes it seem as though energy is a tangible, measurable thing. Yes, of course, that's what thermodynamics is. There's a lot of physicists that'll tell you thermodynamics is really important. Yeah, and that's the whole Joule, right? So again, it's so funny to have this conversation in the context where Joule is famous for this very argument. He wanted a good way to test energy, and he found that they all suck. They're all kind of fudgy. And then he deduced that functionally, what does it all transfer into that I could collect? And the key substance was heat. And so the whole idea was to put something in an isolated tank and force its energy to dissipate out of it and go into that environment of water and heat the water, and that would be proportional to its energy. The theory is perfectly rational, and in fact the device worked. Now the only thing he did wrong was he put everything on a stupid pulley and then put it in gravity. So he was constantly measuring whether moving things slower or faster creates more gravitational potential energy, blah, 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 when he should have just thrown things into the fucking tank. All right, anyway, I am not in a physics class, so I speak out of pure ignorance. Is this akin to the force of gravity and how it technically a theory, let's see, unviewable by the eye? So again, it is viewable. You can watch a laser beam burn a piece of paper. This isn't, it ain't hard to see that this stuff is motion, and the motion beats the hell out of stuff. Let's see. The short answer is that that in physics the concept of energy is very much a real thing. So a real thing disguised in a duality of whatever, of momentum and kinetic energy. And the very fact is, again, that they lie and say they're both conserved when they can't both be conserved. Every single time you transfer energy from a light thing to a heavy thing or vice versa, you can't conserve both. It has functional utility throughout all of modern physics. Yes, it's a trick, but it's a very limited trick. And again, they say it has utility, but I don't think it really has any utility. You can't use it. If you used it in space, you won't land on the moon. That's the simple truth. If you used kinetic energy theory to control the thrust of your rockets in space, you will not land anywhere safely. All right. Sometimes it is in terms of relative change. For example, the gravitational potential energy, kinetic energy, thermal energy. When an object is dropped from a, this is an awful long parenthesis. When an object is dropped from a height, it moves, then it hits the ground. So there's no argument here about the time. The fact is the time tells how much 9.8 you collect. Time decides how much 9.8 you collect. Sometimes it's in terms of more direct transformations. For example, when matter is transformed into photons during antiparticle annihilation. Okay, so everybody has to believe in that. Antiparticle annihilation. We all have to believe that's a real thing. Ugh, too fucking pukable. All right, maybe that's enough, right? I mean, it's just too silly. All right, if gravity is just a description of matter following its natural curved path, so too ridiculous, and not a real thing, then why does matter follow that curved path? Instead of asking what causes gravity, I guess I'm asking what causes matter to follow its natural curved path that we call gravity. Well, it's obviously ether, goddammit. I mean, Einstein even conceded that. I mean, something has to be doing it. Yeah, so, and obviously when they teach it as mock gravity, which is just hilarious. So they teach it as an actual river flowing. So, to use my perfect example, that's how Leonard Susskind actually teaches relativity theory. Oh, God, you people are just so bad. All right, anyway, so, yeah, interesting. Maybe I'll come back to this. I don't know. But yeah, it's not really, it's not a direct enough question. So they're all just, talking randomish shit on the subject because it's just not a direct enough question. So where was my question? Is that it? Yeah, there. Okay, let's see if there's anything else here. Anything new? Yeah. No, just physicist Andy with another vacuous, irrelevant, essentially counter argument. Well, there's this vague idea they say over there. They write some stuff over there, and blah 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 blah. But it won't have anything to do with the exact thing you draw, you analogize, you point it out, and they just ignore every single thing you say. And then claim, I've countered your argument. All right, back. So, more physicist Andy, unfortunately. So this is on a different subject, but it's the same. I mean, his comments are all just this vacuous one-sentence crap. So instead of actually saying something relevant that has some physics in it, he just does this crap. Momentum won't be conserved, at least not the way you're thinking about it. Well, of course, momentum will be conserved. Did you ever figure out why momentum is conserved in a rocket? ? I mean, I'm arguing that it's conserved. Did you try looking it up or not? Did you ever figure out why momentum is conserved in a rocket? The point is kinetic energy isn't. So how is this on the subject? It's like nowhere near the subject. So the simple subject is that we know we're creating a spaceship that has a fixed amount of energy, in the sense that we have a little bit coming out and it's a fixed amount. And all I have to do is double the amount of that energy to get twice the velocity because of the equal and opposite reaction of Newton's law. So I'm throwing away a bit of matter, and then I'm throwing away the same bit of matter. So it's the same exact work for those 2 bits of matter that I'm shooting out. And if 1 bit gives me 1 v, 2 bits does give me twice the velocity. That's the fact. And now I have 4 times the energy. But I only put in 2 units of this stuff called energy. 2 units of the stuff I had to do work to create. So I had to pressurize an air tank and shoot BBs. But the simple truth is each BB is exactly the same amount of energy. So the simple physics challenge to him is to explain how 2 units of energy in can produce 4 units of energy out. Because I have in fact doubled the velocity, and my ship now has 4 times the energy. By your silly theory. So 2 energies in, 4 energies out. That's what you have to argue. And he won't argue it. He won't go anywhere near the damn subject. Just very irritating. So this guy already read this, so the rest of the comments are already done. But yeah, I mean, 3 comments on this board, and he hasn't said a damn thing that's actually on the subject that actually counters my argument. That 2 units of energy in, 4 units of energy out, and you're providing no explanation for where the extra energy is, if it has it, and where it got it from. All right, so enough on that. Yeah, since we're here, we might as well do some comments on the YouTube channel, and they're just getting so bad. It's like, oh. So nobody can make any reasonable contribution to any of these physics conversations. So anyway, so this guy, Stephen Stewart, he calls himself Create Studio. Anyway, 4D space-time QG and G emerges naturally from a boundary. So QG, quantum gravity, I guess, and gravity. So they're 2 different things. Quantum and gravity come from the boundary. Not only is time emergent, so somehow time, the basic motion from things from one place to another, and the fact that nothing moves instantaneously, means that somehow time is emergent, when obviously it's elemental to motion, but whatever. But it is also localized. So this is the joke. Well, I just keep saying the same argument that I've said before, but every place in space. If I go to the moon, the same stuff is hitting me. You know, just tons of photons. Some cell phone calls are still going up there. Different things are hitting me. I'm just in a universe full of this stuff moving, these little photony things flying about, little cosmic rays, this and that. And everywhere you go in the universe, that same phenomenon is happening. And you just have more of it, like on the surface of the Earth, you got lots of phone calls. Further away, there's less and less and less. But there's other kinds of radiation. Okay, so, you know, you're all just in a puddle of stuff, you know, moving the speed of light going through you. And that's happening everywhere, and it's not localized. Every bit of that stuff actually does travel across the space. So we know that there's stars that are, you know, 100 light years away, or 200 or 500 or whatever, you know, incredible distances. And the photons from those stars travel all the way to us fairly uninterrupted. Maybe a little bit of red shifting. And, you know, that's it. There's nothing. It's the same stuff going across the same universe, traveling the same constant speed, indicating it's, you know, the distances aren't changing. So this is all just idiotic, like it's localized. There's no such thing as local. All right, anyway. So time dilation is a quasi-state. So again, it's just like whatever a quasi-state is, that's just like saying religion. That's just spiritual or something, quasi-state. Come on. Like an unnatural event pushing the natural conditions towards unnatural. So that sounds like religion to me. So that's all you're talking, fella. You're just saying, let's invent a new crystal religion or something. This is all just silly, wooey crap. We know the universe is very deterministic, very harsh and unyielding in its rules. And you people are just talking absolute shit. All right, so then this other idiot says something like, wow, I wish I could earn 68 cents a day on YouTube. So obviously none of my videos are monetized. So, so it doesn't make much sense to talk about commercials and money, because obviously I'm not trying to make money here. That's not my purpose. I am trying to have a conversation about physics. So I pointed that out. And then he says, you are projection personified. And I said, you are time wasted personified. I mean, you know, this is the best people can do, this crap. So he says, Dan Richards has 4.2K subs. So right, you know, and he says, dumb ass. And then he says, you know, and it says right in the video, okay, Professor Dave says it. Why didn't you put the video on your regular channel? Right, so this is his low watt channel. This is the new channel that has 4.2K. The other channel obviously has over 100,000. That's why you could see the image, the actual image of the YouTube silver play button right on his wall, moron. I mean, fuck. So it's like these people don't even watch the video. I don't know what he did to misunderstand, but anyway. So I said it has stated in the video that's not his main channel. You know, dumbass. Oh, shit. And so this is some other... No, this is the same asshole. He says, because you're wrong and ignorant, you deliberately avoid the parts where Dave proves that they are wrong and ignorant. And your irrelevance is the reason you will never be on Dave's radar. So again, this is the whole argument, is that what's on the radar is the low-hanging fruit, and what won't get on the radar is an argument they can't win. All right, you really think Dave could prove it takes 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast? Oh, he answered me. Good, so we'll see the answer. Okay, history is going to see him as what he is, a grifting coward. I had to put grifting coward. I had to spell it with special characters because they wouldn't post. So you can't say grifting coward, okay, in a comment, just letting you know, apparently. Anyway, so he says, what's that got to do with the price of eggs? It has to do with his credibility as a science defender, okay? That he's not a science defender. He's our religion against their religion. That's all he's about. He's arguing religion. He's not arguing science, because arguing science requires you to argue experiments and evidence. All right. Might as well chime in. There's this subject. Anytime heat comes up, I'm just, it's been, the thing I'd say, if there was some observation I made this year, that was substantial. Yeah, I guess that's a word for it. I'd say it's this idea of thermodynamics, because that's where I realized the Earth is hot, because it's absorbing motion, and it's absorbing the motion that's not allowing us to stay where we are in space and instead fall into the Earth. That's the motion absorbed, is the motion that would have kept us where we are and not let us fall. And so everything, so it's taking just that simple idea that, of Descartes, that the whole thing is just MV, and the MV is really, the stuff that's the real game is this little tiny stuff. The little tiny stuff is the heat, in the universe. And all you're really saying is when you have that little stuff, these little things with an arrow, when you can put them in a circumstance where they're all pointing the same way, your thing, like a school of fish, this is the argument I made years ago, was that, I had an image of a school of fish to describe the channel, because it's like that. It's just that the elements, when they all agree, then you have motion, the school moves. When the fish don't agree, when some are going up, some are going down, they're going all directions, school doesn't go anywhere, but it's got all the same amount of energy. The fish are all still swimming, they're just not going anywhere. And so, so these are all just elements that you could say of heat. You're just going to count up the elements of heat, all right? And again, you're just saying, do I have a bias in a direction? If I have a bias in a direction, then essentially, like a laser beam is just heat all going one direction, And it's clear that it is that, because it will burn a hole in something. So it's obvious in a way that it's heat moving in a direction. And then, electrical wires melt because it's got a bunch of stuff going in a direction through the wire, contained in the wire. So it all, ties together. But yes, the pressure is just about the electrons. So again, you could just argue that these little bits are bouncing between the electrons. And the obvious point would be is that the closer the electrons are, the more those little bits are hitting the electrons. So they're doing more transfers. And the transfers really represent it either goes or it either reflects. So the electron either moves away or it reflects the energy back. So those are only two choices it has for the pressure between it. And so obviously the pressure will just equal an expansion in the space or a condensing. And so that's all that gravity's doing. It's compressing, pressurizing, tons of pressure inside the Earth. And then when the stuff is free, and expanded, it's unpressurized. But anyway, it's really important to understand that it really is just thermodynamics. And so, in a sense, I don't know how to say this without getting into any trouble. The universe is always the same temperature. It's just that you're changing where the hot and cold spots are, but it's all a certain amount of heat, and it's just the heat moving from place to place. Well, that's about the best I can do with it right now. All right, let's see if there's anything else. Yes, I thought of this when you mentioned heat and pressure transfer early in the stream. Yes. So he said the piston in a car engine cylinder compresses the injected fuel air mix into higher pressure, which it also gets hotter, all on its own. Like diesel, you don't really need a spark. The spark plug combusts the fuel air mix, pushing the piston back down and creating low pressure again. Well, it doesn't really create low pressure. I mean, it's because you have the valves. Obviously, you're going to push the air out, and so you have to have something more than just a cylinder. Obviously, you have to have valves to control pushing the stuff in and pulling the stuff out, or however you want to describe that. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't want to get into the It's just the idea that you can diagram everything. Again, it's back to the simple argument, the Joule tank. You can take any motion and convert it into heat. And it always, every part of it is actually heat. You just got to convert it. So even when something keeps its linear motion, you can understand a linear motion is just heat. And all I have to do is put it in a medium where it's scattered. The motion is converted back into little stuff moving. And I can put a thermometer and measure the little stuff moving. So I'm just saying we can measure like bowling pins. Let's just put it that way. Let's say we can measure the activity of bowling pins with a thermometer. And all we're saying is we're going to take a bunch of bowling balls, throw them into pins, and just calculate how much the balls will stop moving and the pins will be the only thing moving. And so we can measure the pins and know how much energy the balls had. Yeah, that's probably a better way of saying it. A sufficient way to say it. Brother. So yeah, I think that's all you need to hear. The rest is just nothing. Nothing. Now let's see what this one did say. If you think 1/2 mv squared is a religious daydream, yes, I'd love to hear your explanation for orbital mechanics. So again, what would orbital mechanics have to do with anything other than momentum? Where can you demonstrate that orbital mechanics have something to do with 1/2 mv squared when they don't have anything to do with it? To reach low Earth orbit, he just, this is really so dumb, right? Maybe I read this because it seems so familiar. We don't just need momentum, we need a specific escape velocity. So it's not escape velocity, you get into orbit because gravity is a conservative field. Well, that doesn't matter. The fact that gravity gives what it takes doesn't change the fact that obviously in the current conditions, it's given more than it has allowed to be taken. So if you add up what gravity is doing in the universe right now, it's obvious that there's more gravity compressing things than things escaping gravity. So in the state that the universe is in right now, gravity is clearly not conservative in that it's crushing more than it's, doing the opposite, releasing. Fun fact. Moron. Indicating that gravity is a real pressure. Indicating also that you could understand that if you actually did release more energy, okay, by expanding some of the stars or the galaxies, that you'd end up making more pressure to recompress. So with every expansion, there's more pressure compressing and consolidating. And that's the real balance in the universe. But you're too stupid to understand any of these fucking arguments. You buttholes. Nick Morgan. Assholes. Assholes. All right, anyway. Enough of that fun. All right, so we have some more crap that I found. So, yeah, we'll go to the crap page. Let's see. It should be around here, I think. Is it? Yeah, that's it. So I had to go to this ugly, stinky page where, so this Maxim Hart guy who seems to think he's harmless. So he's posting on a page that docks me, okay, routinely. And so he thinks that's appropriate. And it was just stated to him, all you have to do is post this as a comment rather than think you deserve a post for your crap, okay? And, he's not like even politely asked to participate. Yes, and to say the subreddit is being ordered and controlled, duh, isn't every subreddit exactly that? It's supposed to have different rules. There's supposed to be different ways to approach the subjects. Isn't that exactly the point of subreddits? Re-fucking-tard? Jesus Christ. So anyway, let's read this shit. And it is such shit. So we already did the whole half, and we did an hour on this asshole the other day, and he just fucking gripes about how he's not being heard. What a fucking pile of shit, moron. All right, anyway, originally posted this on PhysicsIsBadLogic with the following opening, okay, and again, you were told plainly what to do. Post it as a comment on one of the existing subjects, not as a subject, fucktard. Okay. In order to have a discussion about physics, we must have an absolute basis nailed down. And the whole argument is you have no fucking evidence. You haven't even dropped 4 pounds 1 foot and 1 pound 4 feet. You haven't done a fucking experiment, fucktard. Jesus Christ. Otherwise, all this is pointless. I am pleading with draft science to stop arguing that experiments should be done because we don't need any evidence. I'll tell you what to believe. All right, anyway. I'm pleading with draft science. What a pile of shit. All right, and brutal cycle. I don't know why he had to put his U in there. Oh, yes, he didn't put my U in there because they banned me for asking questions. Amazing. To look at the evidence reasonably. Oh, fuck you in the ass till fucking dead. What a lying hypocrite you are. The evidence. The evidence you don't have. Go look at the fucking Mythbusters evidence reasonably. What does it say? Reasonably. Oh yeah, no sign of kinetic energy whatsoever. Oh God, what a scumbag you are. Let's see. I'm not interested in censorship and I want an open dialogue. Well, then why don't you post it on your own fucking Reddit, you fucktard? Okay. So the burden is on you to see if you care for an open dialogue. Fuck you in the ass. You're just such a fucking prick. No, you're worse than that. You're a fucking cunt. You're a fucking lame, weak piece of shit. This bullshit. This isn't a physics argument, you fucking weasel. Should I preface every fucking argument with this kind of crap about you and what a fucking micro penis you have? Ugh. Okay, and that you are not a snowflake. So I'm reading your fucking tripe, giving you every opportunity to make a physics argument, and I've demonstrated you can't make one. All right, anyway. In just a couple of hours, the entire post was deleted, and you were given an explanation. Okay. Because apparently they want only Gary's arguments. Well, they don't have to be just my arguments, but the whole point is to point out the flaws in conventional theory. And you can argue those points as they're posted. All right, that's the agenda, fuckhead. Oh, Jesus. To be put up as a threat. But it makes more sense to just leave it my arguments, right? Because, yes, it's just as you're doing the opposite in this fucking room. You're doxing me and then arguing your quote mines, and I can't even respond anywhere on this fucking board. So you think that's a fair cop? You can talk shit about me, and I can't even make a comment on the fucking platform. You think that's fair, you piece of shit? God damn, what a weasel to do this griping that he's been abused when he still has a right to post. He can make his own fucking Reddit. He can do anything he wants. I can't do a fucking thing on this fucking platform, you fuck. God damn it. People can't be this fucking stupid. All right, anyway. Yes, because apparently they wanted, Gary's arguments to be put up as threads. Yes, obviously. My post was meant to be mainly a rewrite of what I already explained here. Well, then it's a waste of everybody's fucking time then, isn't it? Which is that Gary doesn't actually believe in conservation. Oh, fuck you in the ass. Okay, because he gets the definition. I don't get it wrong. It's called MV. It's mass times velocity, you fucking retard. Not that fucking complicated. Everything in the fucking universe basically has a mass and it has a velocity. You're claiming otherwise. Well, you're claiming otherwise with no evidence. Show me the massless photon. Show me how you measured its masslessness. Oh, you people are just such full of shit, crap, shitter, fucking goddamn pieces of garbage. Anyway. However, the new post has some additional info about what Isaac Newton said. Okay, will he quote Isaac Newton saying, twice the force, twice the motion. 3 times the force, 3 times the motion. Will he do that? How much you want to bet? He won't. Anyway, which is useful info. So I thought I'd repost my deleted thread here. Anyway, yeah, in a shithole. Okay, in a shithole that's doxing me, you think that's fair. Fuck you. Okay. Anyways, below is the post that was deleted. Oh, what a pile of shit. First, when it comes to the absolute basics, it must be understood that there is a difference between blah, 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 and the former, and the... So he's going to do a bunch of mathematical crap in here. Okay, so yes, waste my time, waste my time, waste my time. So yeah, I'm not even going to bother with this P1 minus P2. Your argument is that somehow there's such a thing as on momentum. We've already got your argument. I've already said this is the silliest thing I can imagine, this unenergy thing. Somehow there's an explosion and stuff goes that way and stuff goes that way and the stuff going that way cancels the stuff going that way, so nothing happened. I mean, it's too fucking stupid to believe I have to counter-argue somebody who's saying nuclear bombs don't contain any momentum. Oh, God damn it. So to repeat, oh, fun, great. The quantity of motion that is conserved is the former one, and almost everyone agrees with this. Well, whatever they're saying. Okay, so bullshit is the simple argument. Nobody agrees. Descartes doesn't agree, Newton doesn't agree, and Galileo doesn't agree. This includes Isaac Newton as well, which both draft science and blah, blah, blah use as an appeal every day, every opportunity they have. I'm not making it as appeal. I'm not saying Newton was right. I'm saying you're lying about what Newton thought. That's what I'm saying. You're the ones using Newton and saying Newton said so. No, Newton didn't say F equals ma. It's just an absolute fact. He didn't say it. He never said gravity's a distant dependent force. He never said it. So you're the ones lying about Isaac Newton. All right, which use as an appeal every opportunity they have. So that's just a lie. I couldn't give a shit. Newton would be completely irrelevant to the conversation if you weren't trying to imply that this is somehow Newtonian, Galilean, and Descartesian physics. Your physics is not their physics. Okay. Have one talk you, and you don't have the balls to say they were wrong. Okay. Instead, you try to make them say what you think, and they didn't say what you think. Okay. I will appeal to Newton's principle and show that Newton without any shred of doubt. So this is such a lie that he's going to take any quotes from Newton besides the motion one. That's so there's no doubt about when he said twice the force, twice the motion, 3 times the force, 3 times the motion. That was as clear as it could be. The rest of what Newton said is all kinds of all over the place. So what a liar. Okay, referring to former quantity in which the quantity of motion, now called momentum, involves subtraction when bodies move in opposite directions. A corollary, the axioms, laws of motion. So he's just going to quote this really crappy, piece of crap from Newton, where he says, if I may so say. So does he have the if I may so say part in here? Oh, no, he took it out. So the if I may so say, is where he said, A was of 6 parts before reflection and 18 parts after. So this is the case where he's now creating the extra energy in the system that can't possibly have existed. So he took out the part where Newton says, if I may so say. That was in the quotes in the actual translation. So he took it out. Right? It's not there. Look at how those that he's quoting of this again so he says by congress of collision of bodies and quantity of motion collected from the sum of the motions directed towards the same way or from the difference of those motions directed. Yes, so the difference could just mean you're saying yes, the total difference. The total difference would be the amount of energy. The total amount of energy is the amount going this way and the amount going that way. Again, this is so easily drawn as just a pool ball. I hit a pool ball between 2 other balls that are going to go that way and that way. They don't cancel momentums. They're real momentums. This way is going to be added to that way. They're not going to subtract in any way. And they're claiming that Newton thought those things subtracted. And that I could have a total amount of energy that was greater than the ball going in. I don't think Newton believed that shit for brain. But nothing Newton wrote was at all clear. So this is just such a lie. In this section, Newton's specifically talking about a pendulum collision experiments done by various experimentalists. So this is a lie. Various who? Who? Okay. He goes on to say that this rule of addition of the bodies go in the same direction and subtraction of the bodies going in opposite directions. And again, the subtraction is just an understanding that you're adding up how much difference there is. Just like when two things collide elastically, there has to be a total collision, right? So they're basically saying that Newton didn't believe that if I had a car with 30 momentums going this way and a car with 60 momentums going this way, I don't need 100 to come out. I mean 90. He's arguing that Newton didn't think you had to conserve momentum. I mean, it's just absolute bullshit. All right, does not change when you vary certain details. All these quotes should leave no room for, I mean, it's just amazing. No room for doubt with this mushy conversation. Okay, this can be decisively demonstrated in the collision of a 1 mass moving speed v into a stationary 3 mass. So again, it's absolutely, this is their free energy argument. I drew the simple experiment you could do where you could make all the energy go in one direction. So you can have 100 momentums going this way, and you can, by their theory, make 300 momentums, and you don't have to add any energy. You don't have to do a damn thing, except cut a string. So we already did all these stupid videos, whatever. Let's see, all of them show closer to 1/2 says you. Okay, we did this already, yesterday. Let's see, so this is all the same bullshit, and he says that's all they need. So Dispar, the shit for brain, has proven the fact for all mankind, and we don't need any better experiment than that pile of shit, these pile of shit Dispar videos. So he says both momentum and kinetic are exactly the same after the collision as before. Yeah, only if you think this way, motion this way cancels motion that way. So again, the pool ball thing. I hit two pool balls next to each other. I hit them with a pool ball, cue ball. One goes this way, one goes that way. They're saying the vectors going these different directions cancel. And so my total energy will be almost nothing in the two balls because I'm canceling all the energy. What? Yeah, no, I can't cancel it. This way will plus this way will equal what I started with. That's the actual fact. You liar. All right, anyway. Let's see. The only thing not conserved is the quantity of motion. So there we go. So they're claiming you don't have to conserve momentum. So even though Professor Lewin said, well, nature can deal with kinetic energy one way or another, but nature can't finagle momentum, apparently nature can finagle it and throw it right out the window. So, thank you for proving my point. Okay. That DS is attached to, which claims that both energy and momentum. What? Which he claims is both energy and momentum. So again, I'm just saying the word energy means momentum. There's no point in having any idea of kinetic energy. We should keep the word energy and use it to describe momentum. Moron. I mean, I've only said this 4,000 times. E equals momentum, force, weight, heat, everything, essentially. All motion is energy. Okay, as we've shown, Newton's quantity of motion is not this. So we know that Newton said, right under the second law, twice the force, twice the motion, 3 times the force, 3 times the motion. Did he quote that? No. Is that honest of him? No. Because he can't explain that quote. There's no way he can explain that quote in the context of what he's claiming to be true. Okay. Because Newton said you apply subtraction when objects are moving in opposite directions. Well, I'm just saying, so you're saying that Newton actually thought a collision between two objects where they exchanged their motions somehow canceled? Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Too stupid. He thinks a nuclear bomb is zero momentum? All right, and mainstream physics ascribes the word momentum only to Newton's quantity of motion, not DS's quantity of motion. So again, it doesn't matter. MV is MV. We're just saying a mass and a velocity is a mass and a velocity. You say you can invent it. You can create free MV. You can make more MV moving in the universe. I can have this much MV, and then I can make this much MV, and I don't have to add any energy. I don't have to add any MV. I can just make atomic, whatever, scalar free MV. And it's really dumb. And you are a piece of suck. So no one's commented on his piece of suck that he posted at this shithole. So again, why couldn't he just why can't he just make his own Reddit and post this shit? Why? What's the reason why that wasn't good enough for you? That was good enough for me. That's all. That's the only right I was looking for. Okay, I tried to post on the science boards. They took it down. I couldn't post any of my questions on their boards. And now you're claiming that somehow I'm cheating you any more than they're cheating? I mean, how exactly is the fact that they banned me? They didn't just delete it. They didn't just say I can't post that. They banned me from the fucking room. You fucking piece of shit liar. God damn, you people are just so dishonest. It's just disgusting that you get away with being so dishonest. The world's just tragically stupid. Sadly retarded. More stuff. Anyway, added a new little image for tomorrow's post. Just Bruce Yearney doing the 2 rubber band test and coming up with completely different results than Dispar, obviously, or Valerie. And again, the argument is, well, maybe real physics ought to do these experiments in a very clinical and careful way to establish an absolute truth, instead of competing less than perfect experiments. But nobody wants to do that, right? I'm the only one on the internet saying more experiments. They're all saying, no, don't do any more experiments. And do them in basements. Don't do any good experiments. It's just amazing. So anyway, something called a war blade, whatever that is. Anyway, question about momentum is the only real energy idea. Okay. Take 2 projectiles with the same momentum. That's what I just did in the example you're posting to, right? Yeah, that's what I just did. Object A, 1 kilogram mass moving 4 meters per second. Object B, 4 kilogram mass moving 1 meter per second. So they have the same momentum and completely different kinetic energies. So yes. What's your point? Okay, anyway, let's see. Both have a momentum of 4 kilograms per meter seconds. Yeah, well, that's how you count it. I'd say they both have a weight. And so let's just say the weight will be 42 pounds. It'll be something like that. Let's see. Well, 1 meter per second. Let's see. 0.44 meters per second is twice. So that's 1 mile an hour. So it's only 2 miles an hour. So it's only going to be about twice. So it's more like 10 pounds. So, well, a kilogram is 2 pounds. So it's more like, well, like I said, 18 probably. All right. Anyway, continuing. Now fire both into identical blocks of clay. Whatever. Do they penetrate the same depth? Well, this is just stupid because that's all about shape, moron. I mean, idiot. I mean, fucktard. Yeah. So if they're the same shape, then and they're a 1 mass and a 4 kilogram mass, well, it's going to be a little hard to shape them the same, isn't it? But obviously, if they are absorbed by the clay, how deep they go won't matter. What you're really saying, do they collect the same amount of, does the clay move the same? So that's the real question. Now fire both into clay. Do they penetrate the same? So the depth doesn't matter. The depth is just, how you shape the projectile. It really is just about the shape of the projectile in a lot of ways. I mean, if you could, spread a bullet over the same space. Let's see, if you could take both, the gun recoil and the bullet, and then have them cover the same exact area, the net force would have to be pretty much the same, right? Because the net capacity to move matter is the same. So anyway, let's just finish. If momentum is the only real physical quantity that matters, these should be equivalent. Well, I'm just saying, what do you mean, penetration? It's all about shit. How can you just completely say you have to compare 2 objects that have the same size? You can't compare 2 objects that have completely different sizes. Right, they should be equivalent in that they can do something, right? I don't even know what that means, but yes, they're equivalent and they can only apply the same weight to the surface. One will apply it in less time, but it's going to be the same amount of pressure applied. The same amount of wind. One wind is 50 miles an hour, the other wind is 25 miles an hour, but the 25 mile an hour wind will be longer. So it's all. According to your momentum centric framework, how many joules are each object spending to move through the clay? So obviously I'm telling you, they can only transfer momentum, just like a bowling ball. So asking me, well, doesn't the 8-pound ball going 16 move more pin? No, it doesn't. It transfers exactly the same amount of momentum. So if you actually do the calculation, like, figure out how much momentum you gave the first pin and how much the ball loses with each pin it hits, it's all going to be the same. The 8-pound ball will give the pins exactly the same MV when you add it up. Yeah, the first pin will go a lot faster, but when you add it all up, it's going to be the same amount of pins moving. Same amount of wood is going to be moving. The same amount of NV will be created. All right, anyway. So we'll see. Yeah, you're going to have to wait for your answer. Anyway, this type of experiment has been done and repeated, proved the case once again that momentum is not the same as energy. So this is just another case of the de Chardollet fake experiment, right, where you dent something with a round object. Denting things with round objects, that is not penetrating. I mean, I have done this argument so many times, so why keep arguing something I've already thoroughly debunked? So they think it's good physics. So, I'll do it again just because they keep saying I must do it over and over again because they won't acknowledge the existence of the argument. I mean, it has been stated over and over and over and over again. And they just keep pretending it hasn't been done. So, the famous experiment, is to, just give one twice the velocity. So you don't take two things and change their shape. And so you just have two objects, the same object, you just have one hit the surface at 2v. And the fact is that the roundness, is going to make a difference on this surface. So the simple argument is, if I don't penetrate the clay, what's going to happen is the surface, this round surface, means is the less it penetrates, the more it's going to be flat, right? So the deeper it goes, the less flat it gets. It starts going this way, right? And you can understand that a surface going that way is easier to get through the clay than a surface going this way, right? This doesn't go through the clay very well, but this, like an arrow, goes through the clay really easy. So in fact, in a sense, the round object is turning into a pointy object the deeper it goes. So the deeper it goes, the less flat it is, and the more pointy it is. It's the simple argument. So obviously the 2v has a huge advantage because it's going to push more clay sideways than it's going to push clay down. And the 1v has the disadvantage because it's going to be pushing down and just a tiny bit sideways. So it's going to be doing a lot more work to get through the clay. It has to move more clay because it has to push the clay down and then sideways. So it has to do two motions on the clay, two pieces of work. And those will just be, in essence, that'll just be heat. So it's going to make a lot more heat, if it's pushing flat, and a less heat if it pushes with a point. And so obviously that's real physics. And the crap they talk is fake physics because it doesn't account for all these variables. And again, I've made this argument so many times. And they're just pretending these arguments haven't been made. All right, so then he snarkily replies to the other asshole, which is funny. I'm asking the co-owner of this subreddit, you know who. Yes, you can't speak the words. It's like I'm one of the villains from some sort of, Henry Potter video or something. You people are just so funny. Oh, God. All right, so we know the ballistic pendulum. So this is the first comment. You're basically asking about a ballistic pendulum. You're saying, okay, I'm going to absorb something with another thing, and combine their masses. And I said every single ballistic pendulum, the results happen the same way. You conserve the momentum as linear motion. So let me draw that too. And once you've conserved it as linear motion, there's no point in having any conversation about where else the energy is, because it can't be somewhere else. It's the simple argument. You can't have the energy actively still in the universe in two different places. Now, it's fact that Descartes is absolutely correct, and the energy never dies, so it's always somewhere. But it can't be in two places at once. It can't do that. And so that's the part where you people are just being ridiculously stupid. I mean, just like not recognizing that gravity is a time-dependent force. I mean, not recognizing that this idea that motion can be in two places is just too stupid. All right, so you have the big object, you have the little object. This one has all the velocity. It combines with this. You end up conserving, let's say, 95% of the momentum. So you did lose a little bit in here. There's a little tiny bit of heat. All right, and that's all there can be, because you have conserved most of the linear momentum. So the mv here is the same almost as the mv here. And the stupid squared thing means that you lost 99% of the kinetic energy. So there's a gigantic loss of kinetic energy, thousands of joules. And the simple truth is if it's over here now, if the momentum is conserved, and you've kept most of the energy in the linear motion, that is, it's still moving the bowling ball can't have knocked down a whole bunch of pins. It can't do both. It can't knock down pins, make heat, let's call that, and keep rolling. So if it keeps rolling, the momentum keeps going this way, and it carries the mass with it going that way in linear motion, it can't also be somewhere else doing something. So it can't be conserved as linear motion and then also make a whole bunch of heat in here. It can't do both things. It can't be in the motion and making heat. Can't do both. I mean, those are simple arguments. I mean, people should be able to understand you can't do both. The motion can't be in two places. And all you're trying to say is where does it get transferred? In every system, the whole point of Joule is making the argument that all motion can be converted into heat. All things that we call energetic can be sealed in a container, and we can pull the heat out of them. We can convert all of their motion into some little thing moving, and then measure the little things moving with a thermometer, and therefore know exactly how much energy was in the vessel. This is a thing we can do with the technology. Now, they don't use that technology, but this is in a sense a little bit like a Joule tank. This is absorbing the energy, and you can measure it. And the measurement clearly just says momentum is the only thing you're going to transfer, because kinetic energy doesn't exist. It is, in fact, a silly fable. And it's really sad that people who consider themselves intelligent, reasonable, and logical would believe a silly fable, a Red Riding Hood story. And that's all it is. It's no better. It's probably worse, frankly. Is there anything else I need to say about that? I guess not. So this is like the 1 kilogram mass, 4 meters per second. This is the lever argument, essentially. You could have a lever perfectly balanced with a 1 mass going 4v, right? Yeah, and a 4 mass going 1v on the other side. And so you have a 4 times difference in the energies of the two things that are balancing each other perfectly. And he's going to ask a question like, I'm supposed to actually believe that these things are fundamentally different, that the light thing going fast somehow has 4 times the energy, 4 times the momentum says it's the same, and they're saying it's 4 times the energy. And there's no evidence it can do 4 times the work. So if I crash those two things into each other, right? If I take the 4 mass object going 1v and crash it into the 1 mass object going 4v, that Bruce Yearney proves right there, up there, that experiment, you know, the same video that clip is from, demonstrates that the thing with 4 times the energy doesn't win the collision. They crash into each other and the collision stays right here. How the hell can the collision stay right here if one of the objects has 4 times the energy? 4 times the energy hits 1 unit of energy and the collision stays right there. How can that make sense to you people? I mean, how could you be so obnoxious about it? I mean, you don't have any pause. None of these arguments even pause you a little to say, yeah, you know, that's a little bit fucked up. You know, we need some better evidence because that's a little bit fucked up. That doesn't make much sense. Why didn't the thing with 4 times the kinetic energy win the collision? I mean, it really should win the collision. You know, it's got 4 times the energy. How could it lose? You know, it's like them saying, you know, that somehow you could have a super quarterback, you know, that he's only got 1 unit of energy and he beats off the 4 units of energy. I mean, come on. At what point are you just going to concede? The fact is, it's momentum that matters. Momentum will decide who wins the tug of war and who wins the collision. And it's true. Momentum always decides. Whatever vehicle has the most momentum wins the collision. And yet you believe exactly the opposite, even though every experiment demonstrates it doesn't happen your way. Things with greater kinetic energy won't be able to do more work. Smaller things spinning faster don't do more work. Jeez. Yeah. All right. So at least a comment. So at least it was on the subject, sort of, kind of, maybe. A little bit. Well, we'll see. I'll pause. All right. Yeah, that's enough of that. All out of videos to play. So anyway, yeah, I'm surprised by this comment. Just because I've never seen Leonard Susskind do a classic mechanics lecture. So I'll have to see if I can find that. You know, just to see what he does to these basic concepts. Because frankly, you know, when he's using mock gravity to describe gravity in terms of relativity, the fact is he, you know, turns it into Newtonian mechanics in the sense that obviously this water, you know, he's using this fluid idea to move things like little boats, and all of that is Newtonian in terms of the mechanics. There's no kinetic energy involved. So that's the part's a little bit funny, because it's actually converting it into momentum. So he's taking the motion of the water and converting it into momentum in the object. So it is a little funny, you know, that it doesn't have kinetic energy in it. So let's see. What else I could check here? I guess I might as well check and see if there's anything new to report versus, what the hell is that? Oh yeah, that's what that is. Okay. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, let's see if there's anything else on the page to take note of. So much to monitor here. Let's see what I'm looking for now. I'm looking for this. Come on. And we need that. And then this should work. Yeah, close enough. Alright, make that smaller. And we do that, and then we do whatever this was. Something like that. Anyway, yeah, that sort of worked. Okay, so let's see if there's anything there worth any more comments. So, unfortunately, just the one comment, so that's pretty bad. Might just be because this is so unclickable. The way they make this thing, you have to click on just this title to see the whole post. But unfortunately, you couldn't delete the image and repost it the other way. So, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. 13, 10, 15, yeah, it's all the same numbers, so nothing new posted, so not much today. And such. So, let's see, was there anything else I wanted to do in particular? I am, I'm going to do some videos on, well, Veritasium that isn't Veritasium anymore. It's some other jackass that makes the Veritasium videos, frankly, whatever, some Norwegian guy. Yeah, it's just all clickbait, frankly. I mean, they say they're going to talk about magnetism, and, there's no magnetism in the first half of the video. So I'll have to figure out when they're going to get to something about it, and then I can point out how they don't even have a single clue about how all that shit works. Let's see, I only found out a few days ago you can filter Reddit posts to newest first. Yeah, you can do it for each post you click on. You can hit newest, so I did find that too. I wish I could just change the default, but I don't have an account, so I don't know what if you can change the defaults. Because it's always, you have to always change it to newest first. It doesn't stay there, which is sort of annoying. Because, yes, it's probably the only rational way to deal with the post is to see the newest post first. Let's see, anything else here? And such. So I don't think there's anything else. Blue Moonshine still hasn't done the 4 rubber band experiment. So I guess I'll read that since that's the tendency here. Okay, so tomorrow's post will be about the Bruce Yearney video. And so I'll read that and such. So, yeah, not very long. So the title's long. Let's see if it'll be, probably won't fit, but we'll see. Under the second law, Newton said twice the force, twice the motion, 3 times the force, 3 times the motion. Conventional modern physics says you need 4 times the force to go twice as fast, 25 times the force to go 5 times as fast. LOL, question mark. LOL, question mark. Isn't that kind of laugh out loudable? 25 to go 5. Anyway, Bruce Yearney does a bunch of collision experiments with rubber bands and wooden blocks. They're all good examples of conservation of momentum and provide pretty good evidence that kinetic energy plays no role in how motion is exchanged. Clearly demonstrated is the fact that collisions between objects with different kinetic energies but the same momentum always show momentum conserved and kinetic energy fail. Always show momentum conserved and kinetic energy fail. I guess I have to say fails to do any extra work. Also demonstrated is the fact that 2 stretched rubber bands will in fact double the velocity of an object pushed with just 1 rubber band. So that's what that shows. Which, obviously debunks the idea that you need 4. Okay, modern physics says that can't happen. But the defenders of physics seem to have no interest in providing credible evidence proving it. So that's the post, essentially. And that will go with that image. So there's a challenge to them. So now they have to say how Bruce didn't do it right, and it's a fake experiment and all that kind of crap. That'll be their obligation, is to prove how Bruce Yearney faked the experiment. I mean, even if you could argue that he let go of it a little sooner, which I'm not sure exactly happened, you can just tell by the motion that one is going twice as fast. I mean, it's just kind of obvious. But anyway, let him go ahead and play with that. And prove that it's only 1.4 faster. And that Bruce Yearney was, like everybody was, fooled. That somehow they thought it was twice as fast because they were all just fooled. And again, that just goes back to the other image that you can see, well, probably here, right? Weird. Where's the other image? Oh, I guess I'm replacing the other image with this image. Okay. So I have to put the other one back in here. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's what I have to do. Anyway, but the ones with the cars moving side to side. Again, demonstrating that the same exact force just creates momentum. The same force applied to two objects. The light object gets 4 times the velocity. The 4 times lighter object, and the 4 times heavier object gets only 1 unit of energy. So it all works out just as momentum would predict. All right. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else I want to bother with. I could just make the excuse that I'm tired and despondent and fed up and all that kind of crap. There's just no point. And, it's just so dismal. Arguing with all the group thinkers. That's all it is. That's all people are capable of. It sucks. Gotta say, it does suck. Disappointing. And such. Alright. So let's see. Susskind made a comment in the lecture that he felt sorry for people having to retake his lectures repeatedly, but dismissed it by stating that his lectures are worth retaking. Well, whatever. I mean, I argue he's pretty well respected as a lecturer. I can't, I say, part of what they are going, some of the stuff they're going to argue is rational, and you say, okay. But yeah, I can't say I've seen too many lectures by Susskind where I'd say he, does a great job of explaining something, I mean, except the fact that, yes, when he's using, when he was using mock gravity to explain something, and mock gravity is essentially the sage gravity, it made perfectly good sense. I'm sure every professor feels kind of bad that people don't get what they're saying, and that there are students who have to retake the lectures because they didn't get it. So I don't know if that's all that miraculous. I guess it's just what I would say. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm all for dumping on these assholes, but I don't know if I'd dump them on for that because their students aren't up to the task of rocking it all. Let's see. With Bruce Yearney video, you made me think about whether trying more and more rubber bands, what's the limit a human can pull? I don't even know what that means, but okay. Now, obviously, Bowflex is rubber bands, right? Technically. So you can make an exercise device where there's thousands of pounds worth of rubber band pressure, technically. They're just very thick rubber bands. But they are rubber bands, right? I mean, it's, you just add more and more. I mean, a lot of exercise equipment runs on, some sort of elastic, stretchable rubber thing to create the resistance, that you're going to use in the motion. So it's not that unusual. I mean, the simple question is like I say, yes, I can make 25 rubber bands. I can take 25 rubber bands and stretch them and then pull something, and it seems pretty unrealistic for anybody to think that 25 rubber bands is only going to get me 5 times the velocity. It just seems kind of like that can't possibly make sense. Like the 9 rubber bands. I mean, just to imagine 9 rubber bands to go 3 times as fast. It's impossible to make that make sense in your head. Now, Bruce Yearney didn't do that experiment, but it would have been interesting if he did the 4 rubber band experiment. Because that's only supposed to be twice as fast. That's all you're supposed to get out of 4 rubber bands. And Dispar's claiming he's proven it. We haven't gotten the Valerie Rousseau video yet, where he's supposed to claim he's going to prove it. But, you know, we'll see. What can we do? We can just wait and see. And like I said, these videos that I have debunk it. So, you know, the little fan carts debunk it. They prove that no. And look, and even the argument here, you know, these, I could go back to this argument right here, right? I mean, it makes the point pretty clearly. You know, all I do is, you know, I throw two things out of my spaceship, two equal things, and I throw them at the same velocity. When I throw the first one, I'll go 1v. When I throw the second one, I'm going to get exactly the same reaction, which is another unit of velocity. I'm not going to go 1.4. I'm going to go twice the velocity. So I only used 2 units of energy. Because it only took 2 units of energy to make the thing. The thing that has the energy, this motion, I only have to do that twice. I don't have to do it 4 times. So, I mean, that theoretical argument, you know, we don't have a spaceship, we can't prove it, but I'm just saying if you eliminate friction, eliminate everything, and just say you're going to go with Newton's third law pretty much closes the door and says, no, all you need is 2 units of motion released, and you'll have 2 units of motion in the opposite direction. So I can get twice the velocity by only putting 2 units of work in. Just an absolute frickin' fact. Yeah, so I'll hit newest first just for fun while I'm here. And 9 hours ago. Yes, we already did that. Okay. So anyway, I don't think there's any way to make it a default. Yeah, no. Controversial, old, Q&A. I wonder what Q&A means. Yuck. I don't want to do that, whatever that is. Can't sign in, unfortunately. Alright, let's see if there's any comments. Maybe I just call it a day. No. Alright. Anything else? Well, it's almost 2 hours, so blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I just wish there was more useful interaction, but there really isn't much. Okay, so till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot.